Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Austin Perry Show. I'm your host, Austin Perry, and today is Wednesday, May 12th, 2021, and this is episode 36 of the Austin Perry Show. And this is the Austin Perry Show where we strive for expanded consciousness and enlightenment. And ladies and gentlemen, you can find my show online everywhere. Just search for Austin Perry Show. And please visit my website. I think you'll really like it. Check it out. Take a look. It is austinperry.org, and that's spelled P-A-R-R-Y. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a jam-packed episode tonight on this episode 36. We have multiple different things to talk about. And the first image that we have here on the video monitor is an image of the USS Enterprise aircraft carrier from 1960 when it was originally launched. And as you can see here, this is the main tower on the ship, on the naval vessel. And this is the command tower, and this is the top portion, and this was actually the radar array. Back in the day, this is what it looked like. You had several rectangular prisms at different slat-angled, so that they can disperse electromagnetic energy to try to map out its surrounding environment in a radar form. And this has since been improved by more high-tech radar systems, but this one just looks really wild. It looks really out there. Who knows whether or not that's safe? Look at all these sailors you got here piled around this huge radar array. And this thing just looks really out of this world. I mean, I can imagine back in 1960 being a sailor on this ship, and then this was the main command tower, and that's what it looked like. It probably would have blown you away. It probably would have been so futuristic back in 1960. I mean, even today, this looks extremely futuristic. And it doesn't look as simplistic as today's radar systems. Today's modern radar systems, you have essentially just a big ball, a big white ball, and inside of there is a dish that rotates around and around and around as it's continually emitting the radar signal outwards, but it's contained within like a dome essentially nowadays. But this is how it used to look like back in the day. And once again, this is an image of the USS Enterprise aircraft carrier, which was launched in 1960. And it was the most impressive and most dangerous and most expensive high-tech state-of-the-art naval vessel in the world at the time when it was launched in 1960. And so there you have it. Very interesting, very thought-provoking, very intriguing. And let's go ahead and move on to the next bit of information that we have here on episode 36 of the Austin Perry Show, where we strive for expanded consciousness and enlightenment. And we have now another image of an aircraft carrier. And this is actually the USS Gerald R. Ford class aircraft carrier, which is the newest aircraft carrier class within the United States Naval Fleet. And the Gerald R. Ford aircraft carrier class was launched in 2017. It is the successor to the Nimitz class aircraft carriers, which were launched originally, I believe, around 2001 or 2002. And it's about the same size. It does have much more advanced capabilities, though, and onboard computer systems. And the technology is a little bit more refined, and it's just built a little bit better. And so here you can see the main tower, the main command tower here. And let's go ahead and zoom in on this. And here you can see, ladies and gentlemen, how you have these radar arrays, which are basically encapsulated in a dome. And this is one of the main large radars, is this top one here. And it's basically just a dome that's covering over a dish, which is just rotating around, circling around as it emits out the radar signal. And so much different than those early stages of radar technology, which I showed you in the previous image of the USS Enterprise. And so there you have it. This is the Gerald R. Ford aircraft carrier, United States aircraft carrier. It's one of the most advanced, if not the most advanced, naval ship in the entire world. Definitely the most fearsome and intimidating and powerful as far as attack capabilities and defensive capabilities. And this is basically one of our best ships that we have in the entire fleet. This is top of the line. This is the Cadillac of the seas, the Rolls Royce of the ocean, if you will. So very interesting. I actually really like naval ships. I like to study them. I like to research them. And so that's why I'm bringing some of this information to you here tonight on the Austin Perry Show. And okay, we've covered this one. Very cool, very amazing ship. Let's go ahead and move on now though. And here we have a comparison of the Gerald R. Ford class right here versus the Nimitz class right over here. And you can see here length of the Gerald R. Ford 1,105 feet, length of the Nimitz 1,092 feet, very comparable, almost the same. The speed, it looks like the Nimitz class goes over 30 knots when it looks like the Gerald R. Ford is limited to 30 knots. And the crew is significantly different. The Nimitz class has 5,000 sailors, while the Gerald R. Ford class has only 4,297 souls on board. And so it is built for efficiency. It is built to run with less operators and less sailors on board. And so it is more automated, a lot of its systems, more controlled by computers. And it has very advanced weaponry on the Gerald R. Ford class aircraft carrier. And I believe when they came out with the Nimitz class in 2001, which was like the first one that they came out with, and then they built several others after that, but they didn't build that many. It was only like 9 or 10 of the Nimitz class that they built, starting in like 2001, 2002. And then the Gerald R. Ford class, which they came out with the first one in 2017, it's the newest class of aircraft carrier in the U.S. fleet. I think they have plans of only building like 8 or 9. So it's still going to be an extremely powerful force. If I'm not mistaken, I believe China only has like 2 or 3 aircraft carriers, and Russia only has, I think, 3 also aircraft carriers. China and Russia, which are number 2 and 3 as far as naval power in the world after the United States of America, have large navies, and they have large quantities and numbers of naval ships. But as far as aircraft carriers, the U.S. is top of the totem pole for sure when it comes to aircraft carriers. So we have like 9 Nimitz class, we have a couple or a few of the Gerald R. Ford, and we're building more. We're going to have like 8 or 9 of the Gerald R. Ford. So we got almost like 20 super advanced aircraft carriers, which we strategically place all around the world. So you really only need like one of these in like a certain area of the Middle East, and then we have dominance in the Middle East. You really only need like one of these in like the South China Sea, and then we have a certain level of dominance and superiority in that area of the South China Sea wherever we have one of these types of aircraft carriers. And so if we have like whatever 18, 19, 20 of these between the Gerald R. Ford and the Nimitz class, not to mention our other types of aircraft carriers we have, which are older, more obsolete models of aircraft carrier. But just with these alone, like say we have 18 of these advanced aircraft carriers, if we place those 18 strategically around the globe, the U.S. basically runs things. And so there you have it. Very interesting, very fascinating here, folks. These naval ships are extremely powerful, and they basically run the oceans. And so let's go ahead and move on now to the next naval vessel that we have, and this is the USS Mount Whitney. And as you can see, this is an amphibious command ship. And as you can see, it has multiple radar arrays all around this ship's hull. And that is for communication purposes. And this is actually the flagship of the entire US Navy fleet, according to Google. I literally Googled in the Google search bar, I searched US Navy flagship model. And this is what they said was the US Navy's flagship model, was the USS Mount Whitney. And so this is where all of the top brass will be if there is a wartime situation. And it is designed to have helicopters, and it is mostly designed for the utmost for communications. And that is why it has so many different types of radar systems and different types of communication and electronic systems on board. But this is a very fascinating ship right here. This is considered the flagship of the entire US naval fleet. And so if there was a wartime situation, or even in a non-wartime situation, this is basically the command ship of the entire US Navy. This is where all the top naval officers will be if there is a wartime situation. And so there you have it, the USS Mount Whitney, amphibious communication command ship, flagship model. And that is very cool. Let's go ahead and move on now. And we have an article here now, ladies and gentlemen, from Forbes.com. And this says, patrol by Chinese carrier reveals Beijing's modern surface fleet. There you go. You can read the title right there in bold lettering. And China is looking to expand its naval fleet. It does have a lot of different types of ships. It has high numbers of ships, but they are not as advanced as U.S. ships. And they are lacking in defensive and offensive capabilities, as well as electronic and computing capabilities compared to U.S. Naval ships. China has large quantities of ships, but technologically speaking, they're like 70s or 80s technology compared to the brand new modern technology that the U.S. fleet has. Same thing with a lot of Soviet ships. They do have several ships, large numbers of ships, but a lot of them are outdated. And so let's go ahead and read a little bit of this. The Chinese carrier Liaoning has been making headlines this April as it and a powerful escorting strike group cruised past Okinawa and conducted maneuvers off of Taiwan. Along the way, it has been shadowed by U.S. and Japanese patrol planes and warships. Very, very tense situation here, folks. We have a Chinese aircraft carrier which is performing maneuvers. It has attack jets taking off and landing on the hull of the Chinese aircraft carrier near the coastal waters of Taiwan, near the coast of Japan. Too close for comfort, honestly. And then all the meanwhile, we have U.S. and Japanese aircrafts and naval ships closely shadowing this Chinese ship. So it's essentially like a standoff happening right now between China's aircraft carriers and American naval ships and Japanese naval ships. And so let's go ahead and watch a video of this Chinese aircraft carrier which is conducting maneuvers off of the coast of Taiwan and Japan. Let's go ahead and watch this video here. Jet flying in the sky here, Chinese jet, fighter jet. It's coming in low. And there it goes, it lands right there. Wow. Let's go ahead and watch that again. Let's back that up. right, here you have the jet. Jet's coming in. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen, the Chinese aircraft carrier conducting maneuvers off of the coast of Taiwan and off of the coast of Japan. It has fighter jets taking off and landing on its deck as a show of force, a show of intimidation, and it's a tense standoff. These are not Chinese waters that this Chinese aircraft carrier is conducting maneuvers in. And so it's very worrisome, and I think that we need peace. I think that we need diplomacy. I think that cooler heads should prevail. And I think war is a very bad thing, and I think we need to avoid war at all costs. And a lot of people will die if there is a war, and I think those lives can be saved, ladies and gentlemen. And so there you have it. That's the situation which is going on over in Asian waters in the South China Sea. So let's go ahead and move on to the next topic here. And we have, this comes from the SouthChinaMorningPost.com. Why China's Type 75 warship is more than it seems. The secret is in its hull number. And so the China Type 75, ladies and gentlemen, is a new type of Chinese warship. Here it is. Here's an image of the Chinese Type 75 right here, and it is a hybrid aircraft carrier / amphibious assault naval ship, and it is specifically designed to have multiple types of helicopters take off and land on this naval vessel. And I believe it can also have certain types of fixed-wing aircraft take off from the deck as well if it is configured for that purpose. And so this is essentially a much cheaper and smaller version of their large aircraft carrier, which I just showed you in the last video, which can have full-size fighter jets take off and land on it. This one right here cannot have like a full-sized fighter jet take off and land. It can have, I think, smaller types of planes and helicopters. And so this is how China is trying to compensate for their lack of aircraft carriers. They're coming out with these smaller, less advanced, less capable types of amphibious attack hybrid aircraft carrier vessels. And so let's go ahead and read a little bit here. It's just 2 digits, but the number on the hull of the first of China's largest amphibious landing helicopter docks, LHD, points to a high value. The first Type 75 Yushin class Hainan ship was given the pennant number 31 when the PLA Navy commissioned it on April 23rd, the Navy's 72nd anniversary. And it goes on here. Let's go ahead and watch this video about this ship here. China has commissioned its first Type 75 amphibious assault ship. Whoa, that's robotic. The Hainan can carry about 30 helicopters and hundreds of troops. $40,000 tons is estimated displacement of China's largest amphibious assault ship. The vessel is expected to be deployed in the disputed South China Sea. The ship gives the PLA Navy enhanced amphibious landing capabilities. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Very interesting. They call it China's largest amphibious assault ship. Well, that just means it's like its smallest aircraft carrier, so that's just another way of saying it, I suppose. But I'm sure it is a very capable ship and can probably cause some damage, but comparatively speaking to the US's Nimitz class or Gerald R. Ford class aircraft carriers, it doesn't stand a chance, folks. And so let's go ahead and continue on now. And this comes from CNN.com, ladies and gentlemen. Colonial Pipeline not likely to pay millions in ransom demands by hackers. So they are talking about how the Colonial Pipeline is going to stay shut down. Apparently in Michigan, Governor Whitmer has said that she wants their pipeline in their state shut down for fears of it being hacked, which doesn't make any sense at all. I mean, it hasn't been hacked. Why would you just shut it down when so many people need fuel? And then the operators of the pipeline were refusing to shut it down. And so now the governor of Michigan, Whitmer, is threatening to send state police to arrest the operator for not shutting down the pipeline because she's scared it might get hacked. What kind of madness is this? Honestly, crazy town, clown world. And so the thing about these pipelines too, ladies and gentlemen, that a lot of people don't realize is pipelines have been around forever. It's a very old technology. It's essentially just a tube. We've had water pipes forever. We've had different types of pipes. We've had oil pipes. We've had gas pipes, all kinds of pipes. And people want to act like they're scared of pipes as if pipes are bad, when the average American living in an average American home has gas piping running through their walls. So a lot of these people are anti-pipeline, but yet they have gas pipeline running through their walls of their homes. That seems a little bit like a contradiction to me. But ladies and gentlemen, the thing about these pipelines also is they can all be manually overridden, and they can manually restart the pipeline manually. There's like stations and areas along the pipeline where they have several turn knobs and turn wheels, which is release valves and different types of openings within the pipes that they can adjust manually with actual release valves and levers and wheels that they actually have. And they can do this very easily. They try and say that there's been automation that has taken over the pipelines that control everything, and they don't have the people necessary to be able to manually override these pipelines to restart them. But that's simply just completely false and fake news, and they're basically just shutting down these pipelines on purpose, trying to destroy America, trying to destroy our energy, trying to make the people suffer. And ladies and gentlemen, the pipelines can easily be manually overridden, and they can have these pipelines up and running within like a few hours, honestly, like half a day tops. But they choose to lie to the American people and say that they are being held captive by these overseas hackers, which, I mean, it makes sense. Okay, maybe they get hacked, maybe things get shut down for maybe like whatever, 20 minutes, but not for days and days and going on weeks now. This is an agenda. This is a plan to destroy our economy, destroy fuel within our country, and to make the American people suffer. And so let's go ahead and read a little bit of this article from CNN, and I will do my best to explain how they are lying in this fake news piece. The ransomware group that carried out a crippling cyber attack on Colonial Pipeline has demanded millions of Bitcoin cryptocurrency payment, though at this point the company has not paid, according to people familiar with the matter. The group, previously identified as DarkSide. Who identified this group, DarkSide? I would like to know that. Demanded nearly $5 million, two sources familiar with the incident said. But it's looking like Colonial Pipeline will not have to pay up. The company, working with U.S. government officials, has managed to retrieve the most important data that was stolen, according to a person familiar with the response. Oh, thank goodness we have our Lord and Savior, the government officials that have came and saved the day. We need the government officials to hold our hand and to watch over us and micromanage us in every aspect of life, ladies and gentlemen. And so this is obviously just a propaganda article here where they're trying to convince people that big government is always the answer. The private energy sector, the private fuel business is one of the last industries in America which is majority and largely privately owned and not government owned. And so they're trying to take it over. The government, this is a conquering of the private energy sector by the big government. And so this is what's going on with the pipeline situation, folks. They're trying to take it over with big government. They can easily just start the pipeline back up, but they choose not to because they want us to not have the ability to travel. This is a Chinese psychological operation propaganda attack, folks. There's already Chinese infiltrators within the American government that are carrying out this plan, carrying out this agenda to shut down our energy, to give us experimental pharmaceutical drugs, to poison the water, poison the food supply, pollute the air, all types of different soft kill vectors, ladies and gentlemen. This is part of the eugenicist depopulation campaign. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you that the New World Order agenda is crumbling and falling apart at the seams. They're actually losing. People are waking up at record rates. We are experiencing the Great Awakening. And once people get active within their local communities, within politics, within dispersing information to the people, then once we realize our true power, the globalists and the ruling class elites are done for. And it's only a matter of time, and it's already happening right now. You're actually experiencing it real time. Things are about to get really good, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to have to go through these growing pains, and that's what we're experiencing now with this whole scamdemic, plandemic psychological operation. But once we get through this, and once we have different types of energy sources released to the public, such as nuclear fusion, such as lightning energy, such as ocean current energy, such as ocean tidal energy, wave energy, all these different types of near-free energy sources and renewable energy sources. Once this gets released to the public and it's widely available, humanity is only going to go for the stars and shoot for the stars, and we're going to be extremely prosperous and everyone is going to thrive. They have super advanced technology, folks. The future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed. They have technology that is 50, 70, 100 years more advanced than what we have in the public. And so they have basically like a little arc reactor from the Iron Man movies, like a little coffee cup sized gizmo that you can just put on your desk and you can plug into it, and it uses a nuclear fusion method to produce energy, and it can essentially power an entire large city for like 100 years. And so imagine if you had a little coffee cup sized machine that can power New York City for 100 years. It's so powerful. And you can just utilize that for all of your energy needs. Imagine how radically the world would be transformed if everyone had access to these machines. We would be so much more powerful. We wouldn't be so easy to control by the ruling class. That's why they don't want us to have it. They want to keep us down. They want to keep the boot on our neck, ladies and gentlemen. And so, in addition to that, not only do they have these little arc reactors, they have 3D printers that are essentially Star Trek style replicators. Like in the popular sci-fi TV show Star Trek, when they would tell the ship's computer, I'll take a Butterfinger and a Mountain Dew. And then the computer's like, and then it just literally materializes your Butterfinger and Mountain Dew that you want. And they have these technologies also, folks, in real life. I think, anyways. I think there's a very high likelihood that they have these technologies. And so imagine if you have a box which is the size of like 2 feet by 2 feet by 2 feet, right? Medium to small sized box, right? And imagine if that was a replicator and you could just give it a command and then it would literally materialize anything inside of that box that you needed. And then imagine you had a little coffee cup sized machine, a little tiny cylinder machine that had basically unlimited energy. Imagine how powerful and what the possibilities would be if you had just those two technologies, ladies and gentlemen. They have this stuff in deep underground military bases. They have these things in underground military facilities. They're holding them back. They're not releasing them to the public. So I just wanted to talk about that real quick and spread awareness of that because it weighs heavy on my mind. People need to know about this stuff. People need to know the truth. If people realize these things, we would reach a higher elevated state of higher consciousness, a higher frequency, a state of enlightenment. And that's what I'm shooting for, and that's what I'm trying to promote here on the Austin Perry Show. And so there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That's from CNN talking about the pipeline situation, which is a fraud. They can turn back on the pipelines at any point. It's very easy. They can manually override them. And so in that same vein, on that same theme, let's go ahead and talk about this now. This is from wikipedia.org, and this is the Wikipedia page, Pipeline Transport. And so here you have it from Wikipedia, Pipeline Transport. You can read it here. And let's go ahead and read some of this here. Pipeline transport is the long-distance transport of a liquid or gas through a system of pipes. It's been along for eons, centuries and centuries we've had pipes. Millennias we've had pipes, honestly. We had the aqueducts, which were basically just pipes, going back to the Roman times and the Greek times. And the Egyptian times had aqueducts as well. And I think they had indoor plumbing also in Egypt. And another thing too, while I'm talking about Egypt, a lot of people don't know, but Egypt had electricity. To what extent they had electricity, I don't know, but everyone should research this. The Baghdad Battery. So in ancient Egypt, they had the Baghdad Battery, which is on display in a museum in one of the Middle Eastern countries. I forget which one, probably Iraq, I would assume, because it's the Baghdad Battery. I think they found it near there. But essentially what this is, and they had this in ancient Egypt, they had this technology. It was a clay jar which was filled with an acid solution with a copper spiral tubing pipe inside spiraling upwards. And they could produce an electrical charge like this, ladies and gentlemen. It was essentially a very primitive, very rudimentary, crude battery. And so that's neither here nor there. That's another jag I went off on there. But let's continue reading this here about pipelines. The latest data from 2014 gives a total of slightly less than 2,175,000 miles of pipeline in 120 countries of the world. The United States has 65%, Russia has 8%, and Canada has 3%. Thus, 75% of all pipelines were in these three countries. So, ladies and gentlemen, the pipelines are already very extensive here in the United States, and this is data that Wikipedia is talking about back from 2014. Now, in 2021, we have much more pipeline than what is said here. So, 65% of 2,175,000, that's about like what, 1.7% or 1.7 million miles of pipeline in 2014 in the United States. I think we have over 2 million miles now in the United States of pipeline. And the pipelines are a very safe way of transporting fuel, comparatively speaking to trucks or rail cars. There are leaks that happen, but they're very rare and they're easy to fix. And with trucks or with rail cars, leaks happen much more often, and so it's actually much better for the environment. And piping is a very simple, very simplistic type of technology. You just seal the pipe up and you bury it in the ground. And then you don't even see it, and it just looks like nature. And yeah, you clear a pathway of the trees on top of where the pipeline is, and then you have little stakes, every, several hundred feet, mapping out where the actual pipeline is. But besides that, it just looks like nature. It's not as bad as, say, the windmills, where you just have a very unnatural landscape, which causes psychological discomfort when you're looking at these wind turbine farms, very unnatural looking. But the pipelines, they bury them in the ground, out of sight, and it's not unsightly at all. It actually looks very nice, very good, and they're very reliable, and they hardly ever leak. And if they do leak, you can fix it very, very easily. And so the way that these operate is the pipeline, every so often along the pipeline, has pump stations. And so these pump stations, they say, have been completely automated, and they're all ran by computer systems, but you can just send a truck to the pump station, and an engineer can just get the pump station up and running very easily by manually overriding the pump station. And so let's continue reading here a little bit. Oil pipelines are made from steel or plastic tubes which are usually buried. The oil is moved through the pipelines by pump stations along the pipeline. Natural gas are pressurized into liquids known as natural gas liquids, NGLs. Natural gas pipelines are constructed of carbon steel. Hydrogen pipeline transport is the transportation of hydrogen through a pipe. Pipelines are one of the safest ways of transporting materials as compared to road or rail, and hence in war, pipelines are often the target of military attacks. Well, what do we have here? Ladies and gentlemen, this is wikipedia.org saying that is the safest way of transporting materials compared to rail or road. So there you have it. The whole pipeline shutdown is essentially a deep state, Chinese Communist Party psychological operation, fear campaign, strategy, tactic that they've launched against us, trying to get the American people to go along with this. But people are realizing, people are waking up to the fact that they can just manually override these pump stations, and they could just start the oil pipeline up and going again within like half a day. And they're trying to say, oh, well, it's taking us several weeks to resolve the issue. Poppycock! Bollocks! This is obscene. This is ludicrous. So, ladies and gentlemen, don't believe the fake news. The oil pipelines are being artificially shut off to try to destroy America, to destroy our economy, and to demoralize and make the American people suffer. Ladies and gentlemen, the world has nukes now, all right? China has nukes, Russia has nukes, the United States has nukes, Iran has nukes, the UK has nukes. All the first world countries have nukes. And we can't really engage in traditional types of warfare, such as warfare like in World War II, where you would like land a large force on one of the beaches of one of the opposing countries, and you would try and push inland, and you would have artillery barrages, and you would have aircrafts coming in and bombing certain targets and stuff. We don't really have warfare like that anymore. It's warfare like this, where they're trying to shut down our pipeline and lie about the reason why it's shutting down. It's a demoralization, psychological operation, propaganda campaign, folks. It's all economic, psychological, radiological, chemical, biological warfare tactics now. It's not like it was back in the day anymore. This is the new 5th generational warfare, ladies and gentlemen. And so there you have it. Pipelines, very old technology, very easy to maintain and to get back up and running. And the globalists' New World Order agenda is trying to put it in your mind that pipelines are bad and that they've been hacked and they can't get them up and running again because they've been hacked. Oh no. And because the pipeline was hacked, allegedly, now the government has to come in and take over cybersecurity operations of all of these private companies. Government overreach. Big government taking over. Big Brother, 1984. So I'm here trying to spread the truth about these topics and about these stories. And ladies and gentlemen, that does it for tonight's episode of the Austin Perry Show. This was Wednesday, May 12th, 2021. This was episode 36. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Austin Perry Show, where we strive for expanded consciousness and enlightenment. Ladies and gentlemen, you can find all my video content anywhere online on the internet. Just search for Austin Perry Show. And please visit my website, give it a look, give it a gander. I think you'll really like it. It is austinperry.org, and that's spelled P-A-R-R-Y. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Love and peace, and goodbye.